Have you ever really stopped and wondered why our whole financial world seems to revolve around debt? It feels like a pretty basic question, right? But the answer, well, it cracks open the biggest secret about how banks actually work. And trust me, it's probably not what you think. So let's start with this. When you go get a loan for a house or a car, where does that pile of cash actually come from? Is it sitting in some giant vault just waiting for you? Money that other people deposited? The real answer is so much more interesting than that. And honestly, once you get this one concept, it's going to completely change how you look at banking, loans, and even your own money. It's a total game changer.
All right, so to really get our heads around this, we've got to start by tearing down a huge misconception. Let's call it the money warehouse myth.
You know, the way most of us are taught to think about it is that banks are just these big warehouses for money. You put your savings in, and they lend that exact money out to someone else. Simple. But that's not what happens at all. The reality is, banks are much more like factories. They don't just move old money around. They literally create new money. I know, it sounds a little crazy, right? How on earth can a loan just create money out of thin air? Well, it all comes down to this core idea that modern banking is built on. The whole system is called fractional reserve banking. Now, it sounds super technical, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Banks are only required to keep a tiny fraction of the money you deposit with them in reserve. And that little rule is what gives them the power to lend out the rest. And it's the key to this whole money creation thing. Okay, so let's walk through it. Imagine you deposit $1,000 into your account. The bank is legally required to hold on to a fraction of that, let's say $100. Now, someone else comes in asking for a loan. The bank can create a brand new loan for $900. And here's the wild part. They don't take that $900 from your account. They just type it into existence in the borrower's account. And just like that, boom, the amount of money in the economy has just expanded. So let that sink in for a second. The money for that loan was created out of thin air, just for the borrower. And the bank gets to charge interest on it. This right here, this is the absolute foundation of how the entire banking industry makes its money. Okay, so we've established that banks can create money and then charge interest on it. But that's just part one of the story. The real secret to their business model, their most powerful tool, is time.
You might look at a loan and see what seems like a pretty low interest rate, maybe 5 or 6%. But that single number doesn't tell the whole story. The real profit engine for a bank is when they apply that rate to a huge amount of money over a really, really long time.
Just look at this example, a $300,000 mortgage at 5%. If you take out a 15-year loan, you'll end up paying about $129,000 in interest. But if you stretch that exact same loan out to 30 years, the bank's profit more than doubles to almost $280,000. That is the power of time working for them, not you. And this is exactly why they're in no rush for you to pay them back. The longer you take, the more interest payments they get to collect. It gives them this incredibly stable, predictable income stream for decades. Now, this whole thing, it's not just about one bank's bottom line. This entire mechanism of creating money through debt is literally the engine that powers our entire modern economy. The entire system is actually designed to get us to borrow. And why is that? Well, when people and companies take out loans, they go out and spend that new money. That spending is what fuels economic growth, it drives consumption, and it keeps that steady, predictable revenue flowing to the banks. So, what kind of debt is making them all this money? Well, if you look at the chart, mortgages are by far the biggest piece of the pie. No surprise there with those huge balances and long timelines. But credit cards, car loans, and student loans are also massive profit centers, all running on that same basic principle. Okay, we've seen how the system works for the banks. Now let's flip the script. What does this all mean for you, the person taking out the loan? It's time to shift our focus and talk about the true cost of debt. And here is the clever little mind game that so many of us fall for. When we look at a loan, we ask ourselves one question. Can I afford that monthly payment? The banks love that we think this way because it makes us focus on this small, manageable number, and it distracts us from the much, much bigger number. I mean, look at this. A $500 car payment seems doable, right? A student loan for $350 a month? Okay. A mortgage for $1,600? Manageable. But the reality, the total interest you'll actually pay is just staggering. Over $7,000 for the car, $40,000 or more for student debt, and nearly $280,000 in pure interest on that mortgage. That is the real cost. So let's just boil this all down. What do you absolutely need to remember? 1. Banks are money factories, not warehouses. 2. Time is their biggest asset. The longer you're in debt, the more they make. 3. Our whole economy is built to run on this system. And finally, the most important one for you. The true cost of any loan isn't the monthly payment. It's the grand total of the interest you pay over the years. Look, understanding this doesn't mean debt is evil or that you should never take out a loan. It's a tool, and sometimes it's a necessary one. But now you see the full price tag of using that tool. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Now that you see how it all really works, how does that change the way you'll think about your next big financial decision?